Well, thank you so much for joining the author's table this morning, and it's a pleasure seeing you and actually talking with you again. It's been at least 2 or 3 years, I believe, right?
Yeah, the last time I seen you was at the Authors to Author in November,
Yes.
and then I was at the convention they had in April, but I didn't see you there. So, but
Well,
yeah, it's been a little bit of time.
yeah, you look good.
I hope life is treating you well.
Oh yes, yes it is. Every day's a good day, Fred.
Yeah, you know something? I got a better night deserve, and I know that today.
Well, you ready to get started?
Well, let's give this a shot here, buddy.
Okay, fantastic. All right, Fred. So, what was your inspiration to start writing?
Oh boy, that's a little bit of a story there. First of all, let me tell you, I'm going to give you a little background on myself a little bit.
Hmm.
I'm one of those young guys that, I was on the other side of the tracks when I grew up, and I ran a hard life. It's not one that you would think and say this guy's going to be a writer, or you're not going to think this guy's but anything but a jail. Well, we all grow up differently.
That's right.
So, as I went along in my life, people used to say, "Hey, Fred, you need to write a book of the stuff you did." This is back in the 70s. And back then, they would never have put in print what I did.
Mm.
But you go fast forward
Yeah.
to today, they'll write anything and print anything. So, fast forward about 8 years ago, I'm on an airplane to go visit my grandchildren. And I hear a whisper. And this whisper says, "You're going to write a children's book." Now, I'm going to back up a second and tell you this. I have died 3 different times in my life, pronounced dead by the doctors, flatlined in three
Oh.
different ways. And so I believe I heard God's voice once before. So when I heard this whisper, I took note. I got a little scared. And of course, I'm laughing at him and saying, "You're not talking to me."
Well, I think so.
Yeah. So, and I'm one of those guys that, I never went to school. So I don't have any formal education. I mean, I graduated, but I did with D's and C's, maybe, if I was lucky. And that's because I never went,
Hmm.
so God knows if I would have probably done something and went, I could have went a little further, but I didn't. And so I'm the most unlikely person you would think that write a book. And so I was told to write this children's book. So that started. Now, I want to interject something. I looked on your website and I understand that you like to look at clouds and get the imaginary things that come out. Well, I was on an airplane when I heard that voice. I was staring at the clouds thinking how cool it would be to live up here because it was so thick that time I was flying through. So that made me think that, we had a little
Oh.
camaraderie in that. So that's
That's
pretty good. I like seeing things. And so that's what was the premise of the children's book was called Cloud Kingdom.
hmm.
And this book, what it does is it teaches children how to deal with bullies, teamwork, loyalty, to be able to stand up for yourself. So, um, and I know that this is a God inspired book because it won 2 awards, and that's not me.
Right.
It's a 2-time award winning book. So,
That's the thing too, Fred. God works in mysterious ways, and there's a reason
mhm,
for everything.
yes, indeed. And that's one of the big reasons, if we allow ourselves to be used and have that faith to step out,
That's
he'll do it.
that's
He'll
right.
do it.
That's right.
Yeah.
He used you as a resource for you to spread the word too. You know,
Hmm.
so well, I'm glad you're here though. You
Yeah,
know,
me too. Yeah, for the
um,
grace of God.
oh man. Um,
So
yeah.
go ahead.
Now, once you knew, well, once you got past that stage, like what steps did you do to like do your research and like what steps did you take to get that book started?
Okay, so let me see. I was lost, to be honest with you. And this is how lost I was. And you're going to laugh, and probably whoever listens to this is going to say, "Oh my God, this guy." When I first wrote the book, I didn't even know that you needed quote marks around dialogue. That's how
Well,
bad my grammar was. I had no idea.
but you had the thought though. That
Oh
that
yeah, my mind. But for the grace of God, I'm a good storyteller, and thank God there's great editors out there because I'm not one of them.
yeah,
That's
we
for
need
sure.
those. That's for sure.
Yeah. So what I did was I reached out I wrote these notes and all. I just started writing as I thought in my head, and then I reached out when I first moved to Florida. I
Mhm.
moved over, no, from Sebring, Florida to Claremont area, and I went to this one writers group, and I met this young lady named Claudia Caparel, and she befriended me. And if it wasn't for her, I would have left that and never went back,
Mhm.
because again, I'm sitting with a bunch of people with college educations. They know English and grammar, and I didn't. And I was totally intimidated by that. And my confidence level was like way low. And she said to me, "Don't worry, let's talk, let's do this." And
Mhm.
so we went and had some coffee. And after a few times of meeting with her, she helped me. And then she introduced me to another person that really had become a great mentor. You interviewed her, I believe, last week. Her name is Mary Flynn.
That's correct. Yes.
Oh
Yeah.
my God.
Uh,
To me, she carries the mantle of best friend.
yeah.
She is that
She's
good.
she's a wonderful woman.
Yeah. And she wants to help people from her heart. I mean, I could stay here and spend an hour on just her praises because that's how much I believe and think of her.
Mm-hmm.
So she helped me tremendously as I went along this journey of writing. Now, again, I went and I bought books from kindergarten to eighth grade on grammar. And I would study and I'd study and I'd study. And you want to know something? It wouldn't penetrate. It just could. I can tell you, I can go teach you the square root of things. I can go I've built houses. I can do almost anything that I teach. And I've taught myself to pretty much write a story now. But English doesn't want to compute in my head. It might be a mental block, but that's just the way it is.
Yes.
So I put those away, and I went and I learned. My wife had bought me two courses, our course on writing.
Mm-hmm.
So I did this course in like less than 30 days, which most people take a year to do, and I got a 99.8% on it. Yeah, it was really I love the course. I don't even know
Good
the name
job,
of it.
Fred.
Yeah, thanks. So
Yeah.
that made me feel good, and it taught me
Yeah.
some things about tension in a story, conflict in a story, how to build it, and tropes, and all these things that you can, all these fancy words that I don't use. I mean, I just do it. And
Yeah.
so that's what got me going one step at a time. And if I had any message for any person out there that's never wrote a book and who's thinking like I did, who wants to put a message out there, but has no education and has no confidence, please just step out in faith
That's
and
right.
start writing your words on paper, and then be able to say, I don't know. Where do I go? And go get help.
That's right. It's
Because,
persistence.
yeah, I just noticed that a lot of writers want to help,
Mm-hmm.
and I turn around and I try to give back what Mary's given me. That's the way it goes. That's the way it works. So that's what I would say to others. So that gradually got me into my book.
Now, now, once you had that, um, now when your book was completed, what process did you do then? How did you go about promoting it?
Okay, the promotion part of sadly, I'm sad to say I'm not very good at. I could I could promote you faster than I can promote myself. I can make you probably a bestseller because I believe in you. I'm my own worst critic when it comes to this. So, but what I did was, first of all, I was able to win those awards, so that gave me
Oh
confidence.
yes.
And so I started going to things like Authors for Authors
Mm-hmm.
conventions,
Yeah.
and I started to mingle a little bit. Now, even today, this August, but for the grace of God, my new book, From Assassin to Priest, has been out since January, but it's already won an award with FAPA. So in August, I'll be able to talk to people. Now, before, I would stand back of the room and I would just wait, get
Yeah.
called, go, and come,
Yeah.
just leave.
Yeah.
But today, I get a little bit more excitement in me and to do that. Now, I did my own research on individual publishing. When that came out, I was 63, and so I didn't want to wait a year to see if I can get an agent, write 1,000 letters, and say yes, no, yes, no. And I didn't want to wait after the agent got me and wait for a publisher to say yes or no.
Right. Yes.
So I said, I'm just going to get this message out there. So I found a editor that was recommended to me. Her name is Marcia Butler, who I believe is phenomenal. Um, as a matter of fact, I found out later that a lot of her books that she's edited ended up award winners.
Wow.
so she helped me quite a bit.
Yes.
I'd be a first, if it wasn't for Mary, if it wasn't for Marcia, if it wasn't for people like that, I would be nowhere. I'd still be sitting in one room. That's it.
Yeah, I
So
think that's the biggest thing is networking too. That's how you connect with other people, and you never know where it
yeah,
can take you.
yeah, and people are so kind and want to do that in this writing world. I just can't say that enough, and I need to realize that so I can step out myself.
Yes. Yeah.
And so then after I did that, I went on Kindle. Well, Marcia's son Mike does the inside formatting. And if you ever get a chance to take a look at Cloud Kingdom, if you look at the inside of that book, it's made for children. This guy did a super phenomenal job. Each chapter's got like a little telescope or a ship or, all those
Nice.
little things. And
Yeah.
I purposely went with a wider space between the lines, a larger font so that kids can read it. And, it's more expensive to do that way, but something, it's an experience for the kids to read.
That's right.
Yeah,
Yep.
so that's what I did, and it's on Amazon. And then I started, like I said, going to conventions and trying to book signings recently, and that's been good.
Excellent. Good for you.
So yeah, so
Yeah.
that's how I've been publishing it and doing that.
Good
So
for you.
and
Now,
Facebook.
okay, yes. Now, Fred, let's go back to your first book. Now, that's a fantasy adventure, and that's called The
Hmm.
Cloud Kingdom.
Yeah.
Can you go into a little more detail on that book, please?
Oh, sure. Now, first of all, you got to know this. First of all, all the characters in the books are named after my grandchildren.
There you
So
go.
you have
Good.
Captain Christopher, you have Commander Leah, you have Queen Ciela, you have Lord Mason, and Prince Nolan. Those are all my
That
grandchildren.
is
You know what I'm
awesome.
saying?
That's so great.
Yeah, and then you have Liam the librarian. So what happens is that Christopher, on his first day back to school, now his father is a Navy SEAL. He's a commander in the Navy, and my son is a lieutenant commander in the Navy, and he
Nice.
flew SEAL. So I
Oh,
portray, yeah, I portrayed him as a bad guy.
oh.
He looked at the book and said, "What the heck you do to me?" Here's a guy that wouldn't harm a fly. So Christopher, first day of school, gets jumped by three kids, two boys and a girl. And he comes home with his new boot bag, or backpack, and his mother says, "What happened?" And he goes, "Oh, I caught it on the fence and it ripped." And when Christopher tells a fib, he gives that big smile. You know what I mean? And she goes, "All right, empty it and put it there." And he goes upstairs. And Leah, the sister, says, "Brother, what are you talking about? You're lying." And so he says, "I don't want to talk about it." And what happens then is when the father gets home, the mother says, "You better talk to Christopher tonight, before he goes to bed, because he told a fib." So it's nighttime. He goes upstairs to say prayers with Christopher, and he goes, "Christopher, you can tell me anything." And Christopher says, "Okay, and nothing's wrong, Dad. I got hooked on the fence." He goes, "All right." And then the moonlight clips on his captain's or his lieutenant bars. You know what I mean? Shines there for a second, and then he starts to close the door, and Christopher's, "Oh, Dad, I can tell you something." And so he gets a lump in his throat, and he goes, "Somebody stole that pen from the SEALs you gave me."
Oh.
And he goes, "What happened, son?" And he goes, "Three people jumped me, and this girl took it." "You let a girl take a pen from you? Where's your honor?"
You're never gonna let that down.
Yeah. So he gets bullied at school. He gets bullied at home. And the father leaves it at the situation. He goes, "All right, we'll talk about this in the morning." First thing in the morning, Christopher gets up and he wants to get out, but his father's standing there. And his
Mhm.
father's got a cup of coffee in his hands. He goes, "I talked to your mother last night, son." "Oh?" And he
Uh-huh.
goes, "We're going to send you to military school."
Ooh.
And Christopher runs and starts crying in the bathroom. So he marches upstairs and he kicks the door of his sister's room. "How come nobody bothers you?" And he goes into his room and starts to fall asleep again. But the bright sun blazes in his eyes, and he blinks and he wakes up and he's in Cloud Kingdom. And
Mm.
that starts his adventure of how he became the coward to the hero.
Ah, okay.
So, and
Nice.
it's a big, beautiful character arc of how this boy has to learn how to become a man and make these decisions. And in this book, every one of these chapters are an adventure. There's no preaching in this, but it teaches the lessons that need to be learned
Yeah.
on how to deal with bullies, on how to be a teamwork person, and how to get, you know what I mean, to step
Yes.
out in faith. Like,
Oh, very good.
so, oh, you know, it was a bit, I got a call maybe 6 months ago, 5 to 6 months ago. And this lady says, uh, are you Fred Gray, the author? And I said, yes. Now, in my book is my website and stuff where you can get a hold of me. So I said, yes. And she goes, I am 80 years old. I just got your book, Cloud Kingdom, and I'm loving every minute of it. I read slow now, but I got a question for you. I'm excited. Yeah,
Oh,
cool.
yeah.
This is great. I said, what is it? And she goes, were you on crack?
Nice.
I said, no, that was in my younger days.
Oh. Oh.
Well, the reason why is because the adventures are so different than what you'll look at. That you'll say, wow, where did this guy come up from? Fighting snowflakes, they're like, coming after. Hey, it's just the broken mirrors where Leah gets trapped in the broken mirrors. And parts of her over here, her stomach is over there, her head's over here, and it's like, and Christopher's got to save her. Now he's a coward. He don't want to go help and save her because it could happen to him. So it's an adventure. These are all the adventures. So that lady really, it was pretty cool to hear. So,
Yeah, actually, too. That brings the next question is because you have a sequel to that one.
no, that one's coming up. The sequel's coming out. It's not out yet.
Okay.
The next book was my next one, which is From Assassin to Priest. I had a burning desire to do an adult book because I love adventure and I know where my life has been
Yes.
and I know where I'm at today. So From Assassin to Priest, can follow people's, story pretty well
Now,
in our life.
now, did you want me to talk a little bit about the that sequel, the name of it, or would you like to
Oh,
mention?
sure. The next sequel is going to be out is Son of Warris,
Yes.
Volume 2,
Mm-hmm.
and that will be probably out by January, February of next year.
How's that coming, Fred?
Oh, it's see what this was about when my book first came out was in COVID. So
Okay, sure.
it was really hard to sell that book. So what I did is I went on Facebook and I gave it away for free, the ebook.
Mm-hmm.
And I just kept doing it. And I just left it up for people to get for free. But the thing is now they're older, the kids are older. And now when they go back for the first time to Cloud Kingdom, they bring somebody with them. And this young Spanish boy who ends up sleeping on their new property here in Florida. They asked, what are you doing on our property?
Yeah.
Because what happens in this book is one of the characters called Grecius, who is a asteroid, or no, Charge-stroid, which is a small asteroid, comes through Earth, lands in the back property of Christopher and Leah, and they run out to see what's going on. Meanwhile, the whole neighborhood's up, alerted. You know what I mean? The police are coming, and they hurry up and get over there, and they hear that it's their old friend Grecius. Meanwhile, this young kid that was sleeping on their property are watching. What the hell's going on? This thing talks to them, And so they befriend this Juan boy, and they bring him into their house for the night, and then they decide that they're going to take him back to Cloud Kingdom for the first time. They're going to bring somebody up there.
So is there going to be a lot more characters?
There's going to be another new character as far as a human, but now we'll have new characters with the in the different realms that there's 8 different realms in Cloud Kingdom. You have the Orange Realm, and then you have Lord Mason, who runs the Rainbow Causeway. The only way you can get from one realm to another is on the right color of the rainbow. If you don't get on the right color, you're going to heck into another area where you don't want to be.
Okay.
So,
right.
And then you have the Purple Paradise, which is ran by the double-headed dragonfly. Double-headed, yeah. And when they talk, one's really argumentative and one is really sweet. So when they're talking to you, they can't shut up.
That is awesome.
So, yes, so there's great characters in this. And so anyway, what they do is they're going to take them there. But the minute they land, the son of Warris is the son of Staus. Excuse me. Staus is the evil overlord in Cloud Kingdom who dies. But beknownst to everybody there, he had a son named Warris. And a new realm was created. While they were celebrating their victory over Staus, a new realm was created, and now
Hmm.
he's going for vengeance.
So
So the minute they land, go ahead.
no, I'm sorry. No, go ahead. Go ahead, Fred.
The minute they land, he attacks. And so now this boy's, hey, I thought this was going to be an adventure. What the? We're going to get killed, you know? And then it starts. And Leah and Christopher get new superpowers. No, they get new supernatural powers.
Ooh,
It's really pretty great. I don't want to say it because it gives it away too much then. But
gotcha.
the
Yes.
powers that they receive. Now, the end of the book, of the first book, I don't know how to say this without ruining the end. Christopher has to be infused with something, and they do it so that he could survive.
Okay.
And
Yes.
nobody
Yep.
tells him what they did. So when he goes back the second time, or this next time in this next book, all of a sudden, when he's talking to people there, they're bowing to him and they're saying, King Christopher. And what are you talking about? I'm
Hmm.
Captain Christopher. I'm not, you know.
Oh
So
yeah.
you can use your imagination what's going to happen on that.
Absolutely. That's awesome. Now
Yeah.
let's go
So,
back. Let's talk about the assassin to priest, though. How did
okay.
you come up with that one? And just talk in a little more detail about that, please.
Okay. Um, my life is a full gamut. And I want to say that for as bad as people can be, as good as is good that we should be. So the pendulum swings both sides.
Hmm.
And like I said, I was on the other side of the tracks and I've died 3 different times. So I've been called to something else. And I try to live a life that's God centered in my actions and everything that I do. So I know that God interacts with a sinner like me in such a way that is amazing. So my from assassin to priest is pretty much how I feel God has really intervened in my life and has brought me to a place of really good stuff. I'm gonna,
Yes.
I'm not
Yeah.
gonna, do this nonsense because that's not. What happens though is I can say a lot of strange things that happened to me, and I've lived through a lot of different stuff. And so I take the adventures in the book and I kind of give that. And now in this book, if the church, well, first of all, let me see. Vito Rosario is the main character, and at 13 years old, he lives in Sicily, and he's on his way home, and he hears these gunshots, and he hears them, and they're close to his home. So he starts to speed up walking home, and all of a sudden he gets to his house and he sees this man running from his house and jumping in a sedan and running and taking off. Meanwhile, he runs to the house, and his father comes out. He's got shot. He's lost his arm from a shotgun blast.
Mm.
He's got a hole in his chest, and he's dying. And he says, "Sorry, son, I'm sorry. I'm sorry." And he dies. And Vito runs in, "Mama, Mama!" And Mama's laying down, brutally massacred. And he turns around to throw up, and he sees his brother and sister with identical wounds to their stomach, blown open. They're dead. It's a horrific tapestry of murder in front of him. And he can't handle it at the age of 13, and he goes into a coma.
Mm.
They get him to the hospital, and he dies. 9 minutes later, while he's dead, you'll see in the epilogue how these shadows of white shadows and dark shadows fight for his soul. And he can't, he doesn't know what's going on. And all of a sudden he dies and flatlines. And he hears a voice right before he flatlines. "Do not be afraid. You will not die." And then 9 minutes later, he comes to life. And the nurses are screaming, "Doctor, doctor," So they take him, and the doctor says, "Get a scan of that brain. I want to now." And they look at its brain, and the activity in that brain is just phenomenally like they've never seen before. And he calls in another doctor, say, "What the heck's going on?" He said, "This guy should be dead."
Mm.
What happens is he gets an eidetic memory, and his mind is genius. He's got a genius IQ. And so so when he goes into an orphanage because he's got no home.
Mm-hmm.
So along comes this guy, Enzo Benetti, and he comes in and he adopts him from this horrific, terrible orphanage, which was really going to get him in doing different things that some of these bad things happen. So anyway, he pulls him out of there and takes him home, and he teaches him the family business. Now, he also gets Vito to love him. And what happens is the family business is contract killing.
Surprise.
Yeah, yeah. And there is a lot. This whole book is full of that. When you think you know, don't you're wrong. As a matter of fact, one of the reviews I got is, you know, move over Space Mountain. This was a roller coaster ride, and you will never guess where you're going. The only thing you can guess is there will be an end.
That's makes you feel good though, doesn't it?
Yeah. Oh, I like again, we're our own worst critics.
Hmm.
I mean, I don't believe that I wrote a good book. I just don't. And so when I get like, Jason Brown meets Dan Bourne, no, Jason Bourne meets Dan Brown. What? I'm gonna hang my hat on that shit.
Yeah.
Sorry, excuse me,
That's right.
but I'm talking about an adult book here now.
Yeah. Well,
So I got another one. It says James Bond meets Indiana Jones. And I'm like, what? What? This is so.
yeah.
Some people are liking the story,
Oh,
and
sure.
I feel so good about it, but it's God. It
That,
ain't me. I
well,
just like to tell stories.
yeah, hey, that's great, and you're doing great at it too.
I'm
Yeah.
trying. That's all
Yes.
I know.
Now, what challenges, Fred, did you face as a published author?
Challenges in what way? Trying to sell the book or
And from writing them to publishing them to
okay.
even just getting the book out there. Like,
All right.
what are
Let's see.
some of your your challenges?
The, okay. So some of the challenges, first of all, is the research. That's a
Hmm.
big thing that you need to do is research. And of
Mm.
course, like I said, I never went to school. So I'm teaching myself patience. And I'm grateful that they have an internet to go in there because I don't have a lot of books on encyclopedias or anything. So I have to go back and I find myself spending hours or days at a time looking at research just for one thing.
Hmm.
Now, in this not from assassin to priest, there's a lot of things about a relic that has to be found. I love the Catholic Church. I love everything about it. I'm a diehard Catholic. I just am, and I love the tradition. It's so rich. And once we delve in and find out why it says it does what it says, you'll be that way too. I mean,
Yeah.
I think most people just miss that part. They
Yes.
always look at the negative side and they forget the part that's really why we're supposed to do things.
Hmm.
So, anyway, we have this rich tradition, and I'm deep and dig deep because now the people who are making the church goes to war against the companies that are making these algorithms that are making children stay on phones forever and addicting them. So now they're the addiction to be on these phones on TikTok and other, I shouldn't say TikTok, but other um, ways you just stay on there and it makes your mind numb. So
Hmm.
when you want to be on there 15 minutes, 3 hours has gone by and people are not becoming social. They're becoming anxiety, a depression, and it's an addictive drug. So the church says, no, we want to get rid of this. Meanwhile, the cabal who has created these algorithms wants a relic from the church because they want to make it even stronger. And they believe by taking the power of a relic and mixing it with this, they're going to have a superpower here. And so they're looking
Hmm.
for the last drop of blood of Christ, and it's hidden. So they hire somebody to go get this to have an excavation. So it starts off in Sicily, goes to Rome, goes to Jerusalem, and goes to America, and then comes back into Rome, and then Israel. It's just all internationally running around. Who's got the relic, and then who's going to find this relic, and who gets there first?
It's sort of like an Indiana Jones in a way, isn't it?
Yeah, so some of it is in
Yeah.
there. Yeah, that's a part of it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's probably why they got that in there. So it's pretty. I loved making the clues for that.
That's awesome.
I made a set of clues and then I read them and I said, no, these are too easy. And then I went back and I really got hard. And so I thought it was. I think they're pretty cool. So I
Yeah.
enjoyed the heck out
Oh,
of doing something like that.
absolutely.
So the research was one of the big things because I'm not used to doing that, and I find myself lost for days. And so that's one thing. And then as far as putting it together, I guess the best thing I can say is I learned so much the first book.
Hmm.
I stuck with the same people.
Yeah.
And again, I went to my favorite person, Mary.
Yeah.
Mary, look. And then she would say, Listen, Fred. How many
Yeah.
people don't know what's in your head? You have to tell them what's going on first. You got to lead them to it. It's
Yeah.
so right. And sometimes I want to yell at her, and but I say to myself, "Oh my God, I see it so clearly now that she said it." So I'm learning certain things that I need to do. So that's
Mhm.
another thing that I had to, jump on board with, is knowing that the reader needs to know what I know. Otherwise, I lost them. And
Yeah.
the smallest thing can take them out of the story.
That's true.
I'm talking over a mile a minute right now, and that's the way I want to write. And
Are you writing
and
this
so
down,
she's,
Fred?
yeah, right. She goes, so Mary would say, slow down.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
my wife would say, I'm a BB in a boxcar. So that's what I am. And so that was another thing that I had to overcome. Going too fast and read slower and
Mhm.
understand where everything's supposed to be. And as far as I did try to get it published a couple of times. You're right. I just don't have the patience for that. And again, with synopsis, that's another cue that you have to do, and that's another skill that I have to learn. And I'm trying to, but to turn all my words that I talk about into one line, two lines, it's a holy mackerel. So I
Yeah.
finally came up with a tagline for this book, From the Assassin to Priest. I have to look at it here. Even the Pope needs a secret weapon.
There you go.
And that was the tagline I used for the back of the book on this one. So
Yeah.
uh, that stuff has to be learned. It's all these things are new to me. I've never went. I got all my kids went to college. They're all smarter, so smart. Oh, went to the academy. One's another a communications officer, another one's a nurse, another one's running gas company, HR. I mean, they're like, what the, you know. But
But like anything, though, Fred, it takes practice and it takes
mm,
persistence. Just like getting an education, it's
yeah,
not just handed to you. You have to apply it, and then that's what you did.
absolutely, you're right. It's hard work. You need to put it in if you want.
That's
I
right.
read. I was an avid reader even when I was a little kid. My mom and dad would yell and scream at me, go to bed. It'd be 7, 8 o'clock, and I don't go to bed. But I'm under the covers with a flashlight, and I'm reading The Godfather. And I was a little boy. And I'm reading Dustin Hoffman played in the movie The Little Big Man.
Oh
That
yeah.
was many years, and I'm
Yes.
reading that book. I mean, these are thick books for a kid to read, but that's where I was an avid reader. So I was in a bad accident where I was in a wheelchair for 4 years and in the hospital for 6 months. And so I picked up the books. First of all, my first 15, 20 years, I read Catholicism. I love that stuff.
Mm.
And then I went into fiction then. And I couldn't stop. Stuart Woods had 55 books of one character, Stone Barrington. And then there's Michael Conley with Harry Bosch. I loved every one of those. And oh God, David Paul Dulce. I love this guy's writing. I love all his different characters, like Oliver Stone in the
Mm-hmm.
Camel Club. I love that. And then you have Patricia Cornwell with what's her name? Patricia Cornwell and Kay Scarpetta, and she's a coroner. And I loved all her books, another 30 books there. And then you have Corbin Harlan, his books, Jack Reacher novels. Oh, I love all that stuff. So I read all those.
But those were little signs because you love to read.
Mm-hmm.
So that sort of built. Those were the building blocks for you. In your life now as a writer.
What's funny is I said, if these guys can do it, I can.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, did I find out how wrong that
Yeah.
was?
Nothing's easy, but
No,
it's worth it.
no.
If
Yeah,
if you have the passion, I mean, go for it. You have nothing to
yes.
lose.
Absolutely. Follow what's in your heart. You'll be happy.
That's right.
If you follow what this world tells you to do, you're going to be a miserable guy trying to make money and trying to do things that will be a hell on earth for you every day.
That's
Follow
right.
what's in your heart.
That's good advice, though. What my next question is: what advice can you give to a new author that is just starting?
Oh, that I would, again, follow what's in your heart.
Mm-hmm.
Try not to make the same mistakes as I have by not having any confidence. Reach out, know your worth if you can. That's hard to do as a human being, and all of us, no
Yes.
matter what we're doing, you know, we are flawed human beings. And in our flawedness, we don't believe that we are ever forgiven. And so we act that way. We act, not like we're supposed to it, and I'm not trying to preach or anything like that, believe me. But the simple fact is we walk around with heads down instead of heads up. Each one of us were born to wear a crown. God loved us all that much. So
Mhm.
we need to be able to feel that forgiveness and walk forward and have the confidence and to do what we want to do in
That's
life
right.
and know that we're backed up by Him, also God Himself.
That's correct.
So use your confidence, get that up. Start looking for writers clubs to join. The FWA, Florida Writers Association.
Yes.
And their
Mhm.
motto is helping writers helping writers. I mean, you can't beat it.
That's
And then
right.
you got FAPA, Florida's Authors and Publishers Association, and every one of those people have been so wonderful. Every time I meet them, their hands are always out. They're always greeting me. They were more friendlier than I was because I was always afraid.
Sure. Oh yeah.
So but they weren't, and that was so good to feel. So reach out, and there's writers groups. Get online, look one. There's Claremont. There's one right here at the library here. If you see somebody, go to the library. It's a good place, and you'll find out many things.
A lot of
Speak.
resources. Hmm.
Yeah, Mary just did a publication or a presentation at the library. So you would know that if you went to the library just to look, and you'd be able to enjoy stuff like that and reach out.
Yes. Very good. Uh, Now you also have. Well, I was going to ask you real quick too. Like when you're at a book signing event,
Mm-hmm.
what are the do's and don'ts of a author's table?
Ooh, ooh. I don't know if I'm qualified for that because I
Yes.
just do what I want.
Oh, no, you're qualified.
um, well, I have two large posters of my book. I don't know if you can see one of them back there.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Yeah, that's like 3 feet tall and
Nice.
2 feet.
Nice.
So I have two of those, one for each book, and I set those in the back of the table. On the front of my table, I have my two awards, and I have my book there. And on the other side, I have my other book.
So you
And
keep
in
them
the
separate.
Yeah, I keep these two separate. Now, hopefully I'll have more and I won't be able to separate them, but right now I can too.
Yeah.
And what I have done is I have made something that is pretty slick. Can I leave the camera for one moment?
Of
I should have
course.
put just
Yes.
1 second. I want
Sure.
to show you this.
Sure. Absolutely.
I wish I could say that this was my idea, but it's not. I've seen it somewhere in my travels of going through the internet. But this is a small book, a copy of my book right here. Oops, right there. One's Cloud Kingdom, and one
Oh.
is From Assassin to Priest.
Oh, that is neat.
And what it is a piece of chocolate, Hershey chocolate, inside. And what I did was I shrunk my book cover down to that size, and I glue them to the candy. And so I have these on each side of my table.
There you go. That is excellent.
So people could take these with them, either if they're going to eat the chocolate, God bless them. If not, they'll keep them as a little souvenir because it's different.
That's right. That is an excellent idea.
Yeah. So what I'm going to do I have an award ceremony coming up on October 5th for this From Assassin to Priest. So I got to get my butt moving and start making some more of these. And because I will use them almost like a calling card,
Oh, absolutely.
and I will give them to people as I go. So that was pretty cool.
I like that
So
idea. That is awesome. It's different. It's original.
yeah, it's very different. And I wish like I said, I wish I could say I did it, but I didn't. But I did see it and I liked it, so I grabbed it. I'm claiming it for now.
That's right. That is an excellent idea, Fred. Really.
So thank you. So that's what I've been doing for that. Now that's what's on my table.
Okay.
Now the first time I went to a convention or a book signing, I sat back and didn't say hardly anything. People would walk by me. I'd say, "Hi, how are you? Hi, how are you?" Didn't even address them, because I didn't know what to do. So I said, I was at the Villages. I was at they have a book expo,
Yes.
and I was there in January.
Yes.
And man, I had a ball. What I did find I said, something, Fred, you got to be you. So that's what I was. And I stood out front and hey, what genre do you like? Hey, what do you do? Oh man, you look great today. And I became asking questions that I wanted answers to. And people knew that I wanted to know how they felt. or what they were doing or how they looked. So it drew them in. And the next thing you know, from assassin to priest, that was my breakout day. Was that day? It was January 29th, which so happened to be my birthday. But I had no books. They didn't make it to me in time. I had one that I was able to get. So this one I had to show everybody, and I was able to take 20 orders just like that. Yeah, so that was wonderful.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, so I was able to, be yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But most of all, I'm going to say this. People say they have a hard time meditating because it's hard to quit the mind, right? I'm going to give you the secret to meditation. Listen. Learn to listen to people, and you will learn to listen when you meditate, because that's nothing but a conversation with God.
That's
when you
right.
talk, you're talking to God, and when you're meditating, you're listening.
That's
So,
I've always told that to people too. Is there's a difference between listening and hearing.
exactly. That hits it right on. That's a hammer on the nail, pal. That's exactly it.
There's a huge difference.
And what comes from the heart goes to the heart. What goes from the heart comes to the heart, and people know that.
Yes.
And they can feel the genuineness of it, and they come to you. They want to hear. They want to talk.
Yes.
And I want to know your story. I want to know what your story is, because I love that stuff.
Yes. Just like we want to know yours, right, Fred?
Oh, thank you. I don't know why, but thank you.
Of course. Now, you do have a website.
Yes, I do. It's broke.
Your website's broke?
Yeah, well, you can get on it, but you can't buy nothing from it. The bookstore part of it is broken. I don't know why. But so I got to do some work on it. But yeah, if you want to know some of the books that are other books, I have a book on training dogs that's out of print right now that I have to get back, and it's called Training the Dumb End of the Leash. And that's us, because I was a dog trainer. I would train this. They would pay me X amount of money to train their dog for half hour to 45 minutes. And one of the first things I teach them is never to pull on a leash. You can't do that. It's just dogs do not pull on a leash. That I am the alpha, they are the omega. And so I would teach them that. And so, within quick time, I'm an alpha. So he's walking next to me, no big deal. So I give him to the customer, and I'd say, now don't let him pull on a leash anymore. Be the alpha. If that dog is an aggressive level of 3, you got to be 4 at all times. If he's 9, you got to be 10. Or if he's on 1, then you got to be 2. That's simple. Okay, and the dog's pulling. Okay, Fred, we'll see you next week.
Oh, jeez.
Who's the dumb end of those leash?
Jeez.
So that's my dog book. It teaches you 5 different commands. They're very simple. Never pull on a leash, to sit, to down, to stay, and to come. Now, my dog, I just lost him 6 months or so ago. But I would be able to take him into Home Depot. I take him into many stores, set him at the door, go shop, and come back, and he wouldn't move. I don't care if you offered him candy, another dog would walk by, he would not move. He would not break my command until I told him to.
Wow.
So you can take your time and take 6 months to train your dog. I mean, it's hard training. Nothing good. Like we talked earlier, Nothing's easy.
That's right.
But if you want, my dog, I had a dog that was 13 years old, off leash, never bothered anybody. And he was perfect, joyful, free, never on a leash. Here's a dog that could do whatever he wanted to. And he knew his boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
And so pay me now or pay me later.
That's right.
So those are the crowning jewels, is something like that. When your dog wants to, and I never trained with dog treats. His treat for me was a good boy and a pet. He learned that that's what he wanted more than anything in life. And so when you do that with your dog, guess what? There ain't nothing, he'll climb a mountain just to get that for you. So that's that. And I wrote a couple of short stories, Christian short stories. One is called, I got them right there, Balance Due.
Yes.
And it talks about how this priest, is so proud of his church and the grounds and all these things. And one day he steps outside and he's walking and thanking God. Thank you, Lord, for all this good stuff I've done for you. And he sees somebody bending on their knees by this statue. He goes, look, Father, I brought another soul to pray to you. And he walks around and he sees this guy digging in his garden. And he goes, "What are you doing? That's my garden." And the guy, he looks up and he says, "Well, I have a special flower and it won't grow nowhere, but the Father in heaven says it'll grow here. So I'm putting it here." And so he said, "Who are you? What mean you mean Father?" And so he goes, "Get this cleaned up and get out of here," that type of thing. And so the guy goes, "Okay." And he finishes cleaning all it up, leaves the flower planted. And he goes to the priest. The priest says, "Are we done now?" He goes, "Yeah." "Oh, by the way, you got something I can do for money or for lunch?" And the father goes, "Oh, God. Well, we just refurbished a building. There's a pile of trash over there. Go take that to the trash cans." And he puts them. So in the meantime, this young lady is in the alcoves crying her heart out. And she's got her son Juan with her. And the little Juan sees this man working in this thing, singing away and being happy. So he keeps bothering it, and she starts screaming, "Get away from him!" And he befriends the kid, befriends her, and teaches her something about her soul and her misery that she's going through. Her alcoholism has killed her and her family and this and that, and he's helped her through this. And to understand how God does love us all no matter what, and takes her into the tabernacle and shows Christ. And meanwhile, the priest is saying, "Who are you that you should take my Christian?" So it's a really pretty cool short story.
That's awesome. And then you have another one called Second Chance.
Yeah, Second Chance is another one where we have a literal lady. We're on a bus. Billy is the same character that's in the first one. Billy makes an appearance in from Assassin the Priest. So he gets on this bus he leaves Father Rob, and goes to Father Rob says, because they make up and they have fun and they find out what's going on, and he goes, "Where are you going next?" And he goes, "Well, there's a little problem I have to do in South Carolina." And this is about a true event where they had the KKK supposedly going against the blacks and this and that fighting, and somebody dies. Well, I wrote the story wrapped around that. And one of the ladies that are in there's an older lady where her daughter dies from is the one. But Billy comes in. Now Billy's got a special connection. Yeah. So she is an older lady, or I think I can't remember if I named her Pearl or not, but she's dressed in this beautiful little rose outfit, that is very old, very worn, but very clean. You can tell everything has been taken care of immaculately. And Billy says, "Can I, out of all the seats," she goes, he goes, "Can I sit with you?" And she looks up and she goes, "There's other seats available, young man." Now, she's an older black woman who's got a lot of spirituality. So, but she's not being spiritual right now. Billy's pulling this out of her. So, and it goes on to show the whole story of her changing. Here's a very spiritual woman that goes about getting forgiveness and really finding out what spirituality is about. Mm-hmm. And Billy guides her through all that, through the prejudice of the city where she lives, and Billy lives with her for a little bit, and he gets labeled as one of them. You know what I mean?
Sure. Oh,
yeah. And because that town in Natchez, Mississippi, is where she lives, and they have a lot of good old boys. And it's funny because he says, "I'll have this stuff." Her porch was damaged, and he has to build the porch. And he looks up to the father. He says, "I thought you were the carpenter." Little laugh like that. Yeah. Well, he gets this. He got to go to the wood place and lumber yard and get this wood delivered. We don't deliver on that side of town. And Billy says, "You just take it and you deliver it." Well, he gets close to the end of the street and dumps it, the wood. So now you got this guy, Billy, picking up this big, huge 4x4 or 4x6 on his shoulder, carrying it to the house. We've seen that before, the crucifixion, right? Yes. Yeah. So there's a lot of that stuff in it. And then the black people don't know what to do. There's a white man doing this stuff, and they're just standing there looking. And so there's a young group of kids who say, "Hey, what are you doing in our side of the town? Get out of here, cracker," and all this kind of stuff. And Billy just talks straight to him, because Billy, I'll tell you now, Billy's an angel. Mm-hmm. And so, he knows how to handle this in a loving sort of way that pisses everybody off. We
Now,
don't like to see our, you know what I mean?
that's right. That's right.
Our character defects flared at us.
Um, uh, now you have your next event coming up.
Well, the next event I'm going to is the FAPA award ceremony. So I can't. I'm really excited about that.
Oh,
so
absolutely. And then
I'm like a little kid.
yes, and then in hopefully in November.
Well, we'll see you in November for Authors, and hopefully that Leesburg used to have a library fair, and they had canceled it last year. I hope they open this up. They open it again because
Okay.
I'll be able to go back there, and then I'll make some more rounds around. I was at the Claremont bookstore. I think it was the Sunshine Book Company.
Okay,
They had
sure.
me there for a book signing,
Yes.
and they a wonderful little bookshop,
Yes.
beautiful, and that was a nice place to be. And then I went to a place in Ocoee called the Book Rack. I have to look at my notes.
Oh.
So and that was a wonderful affair. We had about 4 or 5 authors there.
Oh, nice.
So so that was really nice. And then again, the Authors for Authors convention. I even did one in Miami for children. So I went down there and did that one. So that was pretty cool.
Oh, excellent, Fred.
Yeah, so I'm gonna see if I can start rounding myself up to get back out there some more.
Sure.
I love to do that, and it's a good opportunity to meet people, have fun.
Oh, absolutely. And that's
So
how we met.
yeah, exactly.
And,
Yeah, it's
and that was
exactly.
awesome. Yep. And I'm looking forward to seeing you in November too.
Yeah, you too, buddy. I can't wait. So
Yeah.
good
And
stuff.
again, Fred, thank you so much today for taking the time out of your day, and I loved it. I really
I do
enjoyed it.
too. I do too. Thank you so much. It was a blast.
Yes, it was. And I wish you the best too. And I'll see you in November.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And good luck with all the rest of your interviews for the year that you're going to be doing it. And hopefully, you have a book coming out at all, or no?
No,
I know what.
I have the 4.
Mhm.
I have one maybe, but I have to talk with the person first to.
Okay.
It's I don't want to say anything yet though, but I have
Right,
to
that's okay.
get the approval first.
Work in progress.
You got it. Yes.
Well, then I will just say a prayer for you so that everything goes out for the way you want it.
Well, thank you so much, Fred, and you have a
There you go.
wonderful day. Okay, and I
All
shall
right.
see you in November.
You got it, buddy. God bless. Take it.
You
Have a
too.
good one.
You too, Fred. Thank you. Okay. Bye
Bye-bye.
bye.